last week where Hathaway hits Luke Hughes and smashes him into the boards, where everyone's like, "Oh, geez," which like again, tough hit. Like Scott Stevens would do 10 times that on like every shift. Like it's like highly. It's like watching like a Hall of Fame safety in the NFL in like the 70s. It's like you watch the highlight
Yes.
reel, and it's not like, oh man, you're like, Jesus Christ, like what the fuck was going on back then?
Sean Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Like,
even Sean Taylor. Dude
like-
would like straight up like drop guys in the Pro Bowl. It's like, guys, I'm here
Yes.
bringing my family to Waikiki Beach, and now I have to like go get like a CAT scan. Like, what are we doing?
And welcome into the Bruins Beat on CLNS Media, presented by our good friends over at FanDuel, as well as our delicious friends over at HelloFresh. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. I gotta say, Connor, I'm very excited. I'm very excited because I'm a religious HelloFresh user. I told you this. I've been very open about this with you. And tonight I am cooking up. So Monday night, it will be gone by the time, it will be eaten quickly by the time people listen to this. But it's a shepherd's pie. It takes a little longer to make than everything else, but I've had it before and it's very good. I'm very excited.
Can't go wrong, right? It's, I mean, what is it? It's just mashed potatoes on top of like protein. Like, it's great.
Yes, and vegetables. Yeah, yes. I feel so healthy when I do it. I use up a lot of plates because I use a lot and all that, but it's a very fun time. So I'm excited to do that. It's also fun. You and I are reunited back on Bruins Beat. A little different than when Felger's on. A little different. It's a little different tone. I did see someone replied on YouTube saying, "Man, I got on you guys for being too positive about the team, and you went out and got Felger. So good for you guys."
There you go.
So yeah, I guess we did. So happy to have you back, Connor, and talking all that. How's the holiday season going? Are you doing your shopping, all that stuff?
I think I'm mostly done now. You hit the point where I think you go above and beyond, and I probably have spent a little too much here, got a little overindulgent, got a little carried away here, but then you hit that point in like December 11th through like the 18th where you're like, oh, like I still need to get something for this person. And it's like, no, you're all set. You have those kind of stretches, which I'd rather do that as second guessing than like the people who wait until the 20th, the 21st, people who go shopping like on Christmas Eve, psychos.
No.
Lunatics, Evan, dare I say. Crazy
human beings. I feel the same way. I start my shopping around early December, but I get really nervous because some stuff won't come in until it says like December 15th through the 28th. And I'm like, well, that's a big fucking difference. Like yes. you be a little more specific with that. So I get very nervous. I'm like, oh my God, it better come in before Christmas. I got to have these things in, blah, 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 blah. But I have everything. It's actually like literally to the left of me. And it's all just right up against my bedroom wall. And there's actually a big thing of wrapping paper. And that's like the most tedious thing I have to wrap those gifts. They are just sitting there. So at some point I do have to take like 30 minutes to sit and wrap. And
that's when you put on like the Grinch Stole Christmas or Home Alone or something like that. And you knock it out then. A little hot cocoa. That's how you do it.
I agree. Speaking of Grinch, have you seen those videos of people getting people to get dressed up as the Grinch and like crash their Christmas party? I cannot wait someday when I have children. I cannot wait to do that to them and potentially scar them for life. But it'll be good for that the internet clout
for the
really
content,
matters.
Which is the most important thing. We don't. Yeah, who cares about the kids and how they internally get traumatized by Christmas every year, but the ones where it scares the kids is funny. I saw one where it's like a bunch of like 25-year-olds and the guy comes in and it's like a fully decorated tree and just grabs it and like lifts it and carries it out and like ornaments smash everywhere. I'd be pissed there. Like the videos of like when it's like a cat that jumps and knocks a tree down. I got a lot of knickknacks, a lot of different stuff on my Christmas tree. If like someone destroyed my tree, I'd be pretty heated. Like I would kind of laugh, and then like afterwards, I'd gotten inside like, "Hey, that was really fucked up. You owe me like $400 worth of Christmas ornaments." So
you also need to clean all this up like right
now. Yes,
exactly.
You don't want to be like Mav when he's stepping on like the glass ornaments and they're breaking. You don't want that.
That was such a chess level thing by Kevin to have all those ornaments there to just step on. I mean, that is such galaxy brain level thinking. How would a kid his age figure that? I mean, that is like just diabolical, I think.
He's skilled in guerrilla warfare. Like, who knew Kevin McAllister knew all the? He got nails in the staircases. Really went above and beyond. And again, it takes me about 20 minutes to bring in the trash in Southie. Like, that man built an entire booby trap in 11 minutes. It's impressive.
And he still had time to have his macaroni and cheese. I think that's one of the most underrated.
He didn't enjoy it, unfortunately, but it's the effort that counts.
It was right there. But I agree. The holiday season is a good time. It's it's been. I agree. It's gone too fast, and we're moving right along through December. But anyway, the Bruins stuff continues. There's a lot for December. I feel like.
Yeah.
And chief among them is Matt Poitras. Was benched in the third period in Saturday's game in the 5-3 win over the Coyotes, who, by the way, Arizona Coyotes, not a bad team. Pretty good. They're not too bad. And my favorite take you've ever given in all of our podcasting. I like this take the most. And it's not surprising when you consider the roots, but it's that Clayton Keller should one day be a Boston Bruin and a long-term Boston Bruin. I've always liked that take. It's always been your take. And when I saw them play on Saturday and he scored that goal, I was like, man, he'd look good in black and gold. He would look good. So
those classic BU guys. They need him to. I honestly didn't expect them to play that well this year. If they really tanked again, then it would be all right, when are they going to move that contract before they find another place to actually play in the years ahead? But yeah, definitely a guy worth keeping tabs on, especially if that team continues to kind of go up and down in the standings.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think he would fit, and the Arizona situation is so weird. I did see the other day, though, their Twitter account tweeted out something like, new arena eye emojis, and I'm like, I didn't follow up on it at all. I can't imagine it was anything.
I can't imagine it was anything, no. It was probably they had a little bubble. They showed a video of a bubble hockey, they went to the Quincy youth rink and took a video of the bubble hockey. And that was their arena they're working on as a joke, getting that funny engagement, right? I love when Twitter accounts are really zany, right? It's nice, chuckle it too. Yeah, it's exactly
so
what
funny, guys. Anyways, Matt Poitras didn't play in the third period. This is what everybody's talking about. And let me pull up the quote from Jim Montgomery after the game when he was asked about it. He said, "It's valuing game management. It's something that we talked to him about." And it's still lacking in his game right now. We're paid to win hockey games, and I'm going to go with the guys that I think are going to win us a hockey game. So my whole thing with that, and we've been very consistent with how we've evaluated these younger players throughout the year. And, my whole thing with it is, I get it against Toronto, right? I get it against Dallas. I understand that. Those are big-time games with big-time opponents, and those are 2 points you need to have. And I agree. You need those 2 points against Arizona. You're not a rebuilding hockey team. You are in it. You are tied for the best record in the league. You 100% should be going all in. But a Saturday matinee game against the Arizona Coyotes in December, one game after him being healthy scratched, you're really going to bench him for the third period when you are also missing Pavel Zacha? And the other thing I'll add, and I know you'll agree with me on this, so after that little mishap that Arizona scored their second goal on, that Poitras kind of turned it over in the neutral zone for, which, by the way, Shattenkirk activated and was over the red line. That's why it was a 2-on-1, because Shattenkirk activated and was over the red line. So you can either blame Shattenkirk for that or you can blame the system. But then he makes up for it with the goal for Heinen, with the play in the neutral zone to get Dan Heinen the goal. So I don't see this. I don't understand why so strict on this. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think it's very much a situational thing where I agree with Toronto. In Toronto, with that firepower, with the stakes involved, 1-goal game, then goes Hockey Night in Canada. You want to minimize the risk there. And I think Montgomery kind of said the quiet part out loud, right, in his post-game presser against Arizona. It's we're paid to win hockey games. And I think we've touched on this before, that as much as you want to talk about coaches embracing the youth movement, guys being better to deal with younger players, these teams want to win at the end of the day. And unless you're a team like Columbus or San Jose, where you're not anywhere close to contending, you're not going to trot out a rookie for 22 minutes a night and feed them to the wolves for the sake of getting them to learn, when you are not trying to fight for anything other than development and success in the years ahead. If you're the Bruins, where you're atop the Atlantic and you're a really competitive team right now, you want to minimize that risk while also helping these guys along. So I can see the Toronto game, but as you said, against Arizona, where Potter already had a day off on Thursday, there's minutes up for grabs with Zacha not playing. And, when you look at Potter's game, the one thing that Montgomery's always preached about him as to why he's been so successful is when he has a bad shift or a bad turnover, he rebounds in a hurry. And usually it's like, all right, maybe he has a bad game, bounces back. That was a situation where he has a bad turnover in the second period. 4 minutes later, he gets that turnover, pushes the puck ahead to Dan Heinen and has a goal, right? Like it's like he rebounded in the stretch of 5 minutes. So you would think when you look at just the lack of Zacha being out there, the fact that he already kind of responded to hitting a wall in that game, it seemed like the perfect situation to roll Potter out there a little bit longer. Again, on Monday, Montgomery, preached about really staying positive, had a one-on-one meeting with Potter, saying all the right things, but it is a definite tough situation in terms of towing the line there, because if you have one game against Toronto with the stakes involved, okay, if you're a rookie you can see that. If you have your first season in the NHL, you're not used to an 82 game schedule, I can see sitting out for a game and resting your legs. That makes sense. If it becomes a trend of like he's sitting out in third periods, that's when you start kind of the slippery slope where a guy like Poitras, who's a really confident offensive minded rookie, if you keep on getting benched, that's when it starts getting in your head. You start overthinking things. You're worrying about making mistakes. This sounds like a situation we've heard before with another Bruins coach. Like, that's not to say that, every rookie's cut from the same cloth. But if it becomes a habit of him being the guy that, lands in the doghouse in these situations, those things can kind of add up for a young player trying to find their footing in the NHL.
And again, it goes back to what we talked about preseason. Remember when we sat here and people were like, oh, you guys don't think he should be going right to the NHL? And it's like, no, we were cautious because he couldn't go to Providence. And again, you're sacrificing valuable development time. Now, he's developed quite a bit at the NHL level. He's played a lot and he's produced. And again, I think he's been overall really good for what you should expect from a 19-year-old kid in the NHL. But as you said, when things start to build like this and you are getting benched and you are getting scratched, that's development time. And that hurts that hurts confidence. And I get it. The Bruins are not a team that's going to rebuild. Maybe ever. I mean, remember the Jacobs comments last year when they brought in Jim Montgomery and they were asked, are you headed for a rebuild? And they said, no, we want to win hockey games. So, that's a hard thing for Montgomery and Sweeney to operate under, where it's like, you've got to win. You've got to win or you lose your job. Like that. I think that's the big thing there. And it's good that it's like that. You do want to have a winning culture, and the Bruins do have a winning culture. You're not going to be one of the sucky franchises like the Coyotes or the Blackhawks right now, where you're going to bottom out for a while. Like, it's good that they're good and they're in it every year and this and that. But at the same time, that doesn't always allow for full development for guys like Poitras or a Lowry, where, Lowry is raw. Lowry's we've said this, really raw player, some defensive inefficiencies, but really good offensively and has a lot of promise. And Poitras has a ton of promise and a high ceiling and all those things, but both of them are going to make mistakes. So it's hard to put them out there constantly for a really, really, really good team. Now, at least with Lowry, they can send down to Providence. Poitras, they can't. And the more I think about this, the more I think, I think Poitras proved it at the NHL level. I think he has all the intangibles to be a good NHL center. I think he's earned his time up here. But the more I see things, if this continues to happen, because it's starting to, it's not snowball, good pun intended, with the winter and everything. Not snowball, but it could. That's when I think a Providence would be perfect for him, but they can't move him down. So you have that dilemma, which I think doesn't really help things. What have you thought of Poitras' overall game this year so far? I feel like we haven't talked about him in a little while.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he's been solid. There's, as expected for a guy that's 19, there's going to be those lulls in games where maybe he's not that impactful. But I think even in games where he's not scoring, there's at least one or two shifts where it stands out, where he's holding on to the puck, being assertive, and giving this team energy. And that's one thing that I think has occasionally been missing for this team offensively. You can look at the systems, you can look at the forechecking, all those things. But in terms of just generating energy, when he's really holding on to the puck and really assertive with it and generating high danger chances, that's where that talent really shines. And something that Montgomery even mentioned on Monday, that he's a young, enthusiastic player, and guys feed off that on this team. And even in games where maybe he has 0 points and he's not really impacting the game in terms of the tangible stat line, he still brings those kind of smaller things that can go a long way towards really, pushing across a forward group that's still really in transition and has a lot of overhaul on it. So as a whole, I think he's been solid. And I think what has stood out to me is just his ability to bounce back and stuff. Like, that's why I was kind of confused by him sitting the third period on Saturday, where, yes, wasn't a great turnover in the neutral zone. 3 minutes later, has a primary assist, like makes a smart play there. That's a pretty special player to go through, a setback, hit a wall, and then in the same game, minutes later, bounce back, make the most of it, have a short memory, and capitalize. Like that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to get into sort of your depth at center, because obviously the Pavel Zacha news. But first, Connor, quick word from our sponsors over at FanDuel.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action, NFL. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including you got spreads, you got your player props, you got over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
So, Pavel Zacha taken out in the first period. Montgomery said on Monday, day to day, so they don't quite know if he's going to be good to go against New Jersey on Wednesday, which is a primetime game, by the way. TNT, yep. Big game. That's a big stage. New Jersey's underperformed this year, so could be a big game for them. A little something there. But if Pavel Zacha doesn't play, he doesn't get to rub it in the faces of New Jersey fans, which I think would have been fun. But if he's out, which again, if this is out and he is in, or if this podcast comes out and he is announced in, which I don't know how that would happen by the time this is out, but if that does happen, I think depth at center is still an interesting conversation to have. But if Zacha is out, guys like Geekie, Frederick saw a little time at center on Saturday. I've seen some saying potentially like a Merkulov. I know he had a 5-point night the other night. Don't quite know if they're there yet with him, because if you're not happy with some of Poitras' issues, that's going to be a roller coaster of an adventure. What do you think the Bruins do if Zacha's out on Wednesday?
Yeah, I was going to say with Merkulov, that's not really an easy matchup too against Jack Hughes and the way the Devils play. As you said, kind of underwhelming so this year, but how quick they are, how dynamic they can be. I wouldn't throw Merkulov to the Wolves there, but obviously I think one situation is giving Poitras more time, which would help out quite a bit. But beyond that, I do think a guy like Geekie could step into a larger role there. It's kind of been an interesting season for him where he's kind of been all over the lineup. He was a guy that I think we expected as being a third-line center going into the year. He gets shifted to wing, played pretty well with Poitras in kind of that, I guess, de facto third-line spot. But then over the last couple of weeks, he's been more of a fourth-line guy. And I think he's been solid in that spot, but still hasn't found a lot of consistency. But I thought he was really good, actually, in that game against Arizona in the second and third period. Has over 17 minutes of ice time. Has the primary assist on Pasternak's second goal, I believe. And I think the one thing that's always stuck out to me about Geekie is he's not the biggest guy out there. He's 6'3", but not like a power forward or anything like that. But he always seems to carry the puck in and around the net. And I think if he's, getting more minutes and it's with guys like Pastrnak or Jake DeBrusk, who he played quite a bit with in the last game, if he's bringing the puck down low, holding on to it, and you have guys that can finish better, maybe you can get something out of it. I don't know if this is the situation where I'm saying Geekie needs to step into a larger role if Zacha's back, but if you're looking for a contingency plan for a couple of games, a week or so, I think he can step into that spot and give you a little bit more than maybe what you've seen so far.
Yeah, I'm fine with Geekie stepping in. And again, that's a guy that was sort of finding his footing, I think, pre-injury, which hurt them and hurt him. But I think getting him back in the lineup and playing a consistent spot if Zacha is out for any length of time, I think is a good thing. Frederick's an interesting one. I'm curious what they do there. Again, I like his game on the wing, but again, he came up as a natural center, so you do wonder if there's anything there. But yeah, I mean, I would be fine with I agree with you. Merkulov against the Devils. Nah. But again, Poitras, like, you've got the guy. Like, let him cook. Try it. I mean, like, I again, it's a big game. It's a big stage. These are points you want to have. I agree. We're consistent on that. But if Zacha's going to be out, the guy with the offensive upside, similar to a Zacha, is Poitras. So I would like Poitras in there. I think a lot of people would. And again, I think this is one of Montgomery's first real big tests, because, he was brought in as a guy who can win games but also develop talent. And having a guy like Poitras who has the upside that he does, is the age that he is, I think it's important that he handles this well. So I am curious to see how he handles this going forward, what his role is on Wednesday night if Zacha is out of that game. I will tell you, though, before the game, I've got to be doing some HelloFresh, which actually brings us perfectly to our next sponsor, which is HelloFresh. Quick break in the action to tell you about our delicious friends over at HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. A crazy schedule can make it easy to fall back into your dinner time recipe rut, but keep mealtime exciting with over 40 recipes to choose from every week. There's always something delicious to discover with HelloFresh. Turn to HelloFresh Market for yummy add-ons and enjoy the season's limited time fall flavors lineup. It's that time of year, right? Things get you in the mood, like apple cider cake with caramel sauce. All the ingredients come fresh, from the crushed tomatoes to the Italian chicken sausage mix to the Parmesan cheese. It's delicious, and I feel like a chef when I'm doing it. What's better than that? And this is a busy time of year for me with hockey starting up. I don't always have a ton of time, so this recipe makes it quick to enjoy something amazing. So join in on the fun. Go to HelloFresh.com/50Bruins and use code 50Bruins for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, go to HelloFresh.com/50Bruins and use code 50Bruins for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Now, back to the show. So back to the show, yes. Your colleague at the Boston Globe, Kevin Paul DuPont, had a very interesting column on Sunday about the lack of hitting, especially by the Bruins back end. You're missing Derek Forbort right now. Lots has been made of Charlie McAvoy since his 4-game suspension after that hit on Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And I think it was in that dud of a game against the Sabres on Thursday that I think one Bruin had one defenseman had one hit. It was Lindholm, had one hit. Everybody else, 0 hits. And again, hitting's not everything. Typically, when you're hitting someone, it means you do not have the puck. And the Bruins are a puck possession team. You want to have the puck. So maybe being #1 in hits is not something you really want to be. But they don't have that edge. And they haven't, by the way, they have not had that hit, that physical edge in a long time. Even against the Panthers last season. They even went out, got Hathaway, they got Bertuzzi. Didn't really make a heck of a lot of difference. And this year, you had Lucic. Now that's a whole another situation, so that's off the table. And Forbort's on the LTIR. But I think they do need to be more physical. I know Montgomery at practice recently has been kind of preaching that, but I agree with Kevin. They've got to be more physical on the back end, and I think throughout the whole lineup.
Yeah, I think definitely throughout the whole lineup. And I think there's a way to inject that physicality where I think when people hear the discourse about, physicality and grit, they automatically think it's like just dropping the gloves or being the 2010, 2011 Bruins. It's not the case anymore. You can't have a team like that. That being said, you can inject physicality into the hallmarks and the strengths of your game and as, a key piece of your system. Like, I think you look at the Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes, all these teams that go very far in the playoffs, suffocating forecheck, they wear you down. They, come in waves. They make you turn over the puck, make bad decisions with the puck, put you under duress night in, night out, every single shift. And that can go a long way when you're playing in a 7-game series, especially when, all right, you're the Bruins. let's say you get past so you get past Florida, you got Carolina, you got the Rangers, who I think have really upped their forechecking pressure. So whether you look at the forecheck like that, whether you look at the defense, and again, it's not like you need guys that are just going to be pummeling guys, dropping the gloves, what have you, but physicality in terms of, pushing guys out of the grade A ice, making guys retrieving pucks, second guess or look over their shoulder. It's things like that I think in today's NHL, when you talk about physicality and hitting, it's a means to it's part of the process, right? It's not a means to an end of like, I'm going to beat the living shit out of you and just pummel you.
It's not like Nicholas Kronwall just killing guys along the wall.
It is different how you can kind of identify it, but if it's a part of your system and a way to wear teams down, make things, I think it all comes down to the Bruins this year have not done enough to make things hotter on their opponents, right? Like it's something where it's over a 7-game series. By game 6 or 7, you need that entire, opposition have quite a few welts, have second guesses about, retrieving pucks, making sound plays. It's all about, I think the best way to describe the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's like that Mike Tyson quote of everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Be the team that lands that punch, right? And have guys second guessing, throwing them off their game. And I think you're not seeing that enough from the Bruins so far. Again, you can tweak that. I think some of it's a mindset, like whether it's the personnel, whether it's just guys, adhering to that more. That needs to change more than just like, I think people view physicality hitting as just seen from Slapshot or anything like that. There's a way to apply that practically in today's NHL that you're just not seeing enough from the Bruins so far this year.
And you mentioned it, forecheck. That's the number one area where you don't have to have the puck on. You do not have the puck on the forecheck. You're dumping it in, or the other team's going back to break it out. Being physical. That's like number one. And number two is just in your own zone, hitting guys, making life difficult when guys try to get to interior ice. Along the perimeter, things that I know they play zone defense and all those things, but guys in your zone, stick to stick, step up and hit them. I mean, again, it's not all like, Johnny Boychuk laying guys out in open ice type stuff. It's just, physicality along the wall and things like that I think make a big difference in the long term, and especially in a playoff series where, you're going against the same guys. You want guys to think twice before cutting in or going to the net or going to certain areas. And I agree. The Bruins have not been the ones punching teams in the mouth, which is off-brand for them. And it's been that way for a couple of years now where they've had it. So again, we go back to it's not like, hey, the Bruins need to bring Scott Stevens out of retirement and have him, lining guys up left and right. A lot of Scott Stevens' hits, if you go back and watch them, were so egregiously dirty.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when have you played an NHL, like in the video game where it's like threes, it's like arcade style, and there's no interference. So you can you can build a guy who's like 6'9", who just freaking trashes people. That was Scott Stevens. Like, guys would be like, pass the puck, turn, and Stevens would just like take him out within 5 seconds after passing the puck.
It's like that video, I think was last week, where Hathaway hits Luke Hughes and smashes him into the boards, where everyone's like, oh geez, which like, again, tough hit. Like Scott Stevens would do 10 times that on like every shift. Like it's like watching like a Hall of Fame safety in the NFL in like the 70s. It's like you want the highlight reel, and it's not like, oh man, you're like, Jesus Christ, like what the fuck was going on back then?
Sean Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like,
even Sean Taylor. Dude would like straight up like drop guys in the Pro Bowl. It's like, guys, I'm here bringing my family to Waikiki Beach, and now I have to go get like a CAT scan. Like, what are we doing here?
But that's the thing, and like that's gone. You don't have that anymore. Like Scott Stevens would like pulled a gun on Luke Hughes or something, like something along those lines. But yeah, I agree.
I'd like to see that Department of Player Safety video. It's like, this is a firearm, like
with the like the music in the background. But yeah, I agree. I think that again, it's not the open ice hits. It's not the hits that you and I like to tweet out. It's just pinning guys along the wall and just doing that stuff, which shoulder to shoulder. X's and O's kind of hitting, the good kind. So I think you need more of that. And they had it at the beginning of the year. Like that fourth line of Lauko, Lucic, Beecher did have a little bit of that DNA. at the beginning of the year. I know it's obviously been a while. You don't have Lucic in the equation anymore, but you had some of that identity, and it's fallen off. You've looked at McAvoy, like since that hit on Oliver Ekman-Larsson, he's kind of seems to be worried about getting another one of those hits. Now, again, I said it to you before, like that hit was so weird and so dumb and so like went out of his way to do that I think, a regular open ice shoulder to shoulder hit or shoulder to chest or something like that, but again, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I think it's sort of just one of those things where he's sort of scared to, run a guy and then get a 5 or 6 game or more suspension, which I get. But again, I go back to like that Ekman-Larsson hit was like, that was intentional. I don't know. That wasn't just like a, spur of the moment thing. That was just dumb. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm curious to see if they end up, if that identity shifts. I know, I think someone practice last week, Montgomery was kind of screaming at guys, getting them to try to be tougher in front of the net, which he's right. You do need to be tougher in front of your own net. It's crazy how that's the case. But you do need to be tougher in front of your own net. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, we're going to have it covered throughout this season, whether it's game recaps, features, columns, breakdowns, all that good stuff over there. So please read all of my stuff over there at Boston.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. We're presented by FanDuel and HelloFresh. You Bruins Beat listeners have a great rest of your week.